because only Allah can destroy them. Agog and Magog. What I've done to you, what I've done for you in the hour and a couple of minutes, 20 minutes, is to give you a taste of what the Qur'an has to offer in explaining the end time, not the end of time, explaining the reality of the world today. This book is the introduction to Islamic eschatology. This book helps you to understand a very important part of Islamic eschatology, namely Gog and Magog. The other one, of course, is Dajjal, and I'm still writing that book. But there's one surah of the Qur'an, one, which more than any other surah of the Qur'an explains the end time, eschatology. The Prophet ﷺ gave us 10 major signs of the last day. If you've not memorized them as yet, you should memorize them. Number 1, Dajjal. Number 2, Gog and Magog. Number 3, the son of Mary returns. Number 4, Dukhan. Number 5, Dabbatul Ard, the creature of the land. Number 6, that the sun will rise from the west. Number 7, 8, and 9, 3, earthquakes, shifting of the earth with sinking of the earth. 1 in the east, 1 in the west, and 1 in Arabia. Number 10, that a fire will come out of Yemen, and we have some Yemenis here tonight. A fire will come out of Yemen and drive people to their place of assembly. 2 out of these 10 are to be found in Surah Al-Kahf. The first one, Gog and Magog, is mentioned by name. The second one, Dajjal. The Prophet said, recite the first 10 verses of Surah Al-Kahf for protection from the fitna of Dajjal, particularly when you have to reach to the immigration officer. And so I wrote this book, Surah Al-Kahf, in the modern age. These 3 books plus the one on Dajjal that I'm now writing should be sufficient to give you an introduction to Islamic eschatology. I hope and I pray that at least one from amongst you here tonight will be chosen by Allah to be that glorious scholar of tomorrow, through whom the Qur'an will dazzle the world. Ameen. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين آمين.
Thank you, Sheikh Imran. Inshallah, now we will have a Q&A session. So I would like to invite the members of the floor to ask if there is any question.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah to all my brothers. I would like to ask you just one question concerning Gog and Magog. First of all, how did Gog and Magog have a huge extent on global affairs if they are trapped by the wall that Dhul Qarnayn has built? As we know, the wall will not fall unless the Tiberian Sea is dried up. Thank you.
The question is, Zulkarnain built a barrier, and once he built that barrier, he used blocks of iron and then coated it with molten copper. And they could not scale it, nor could they penetrate it. So they were trapped behind the wall, they could not get out. But Imran Hosein is talking about Gog and Magog in control of the world today. But the wall is supposed to be still standing, and the wall will not come down until the water in the Sea of Galilee dries up. So how do you explain that? Well, First of all, the Prophet ﷺ was asleep at the home of his wife Zainab radiallahu ta'ala anha. And in his sleep he had a vision, ru'ya. It was something terrible. Terrible. And when he woke up from his sleep, his face was flushed red. And then he raised his hands and he said, no. And then he uttered these words. Wailul lil Arab. Woe unto the Arabs. Min sharrin qad iqtaraba. Because of a great evil which should now come upon them. It's close by. What evil? That's going to destroy the Arabs. He then raised his hands like this. This is Sahih Bukhari. And the hadith is repeated in Sahih Bukhari several times. Several times. He raised his hands like this and he made a circle and he said, today. And today means T-O-D-A-Y, today. Today doesn't mean 2,000 years from now. Today means today. At least in my knowledge of the English language. Al-Yawm, Arabic. Today, a hole has been made in the rudder. The word is, the language used is exact language. At the beginning, they asked him to build a sad, which is a barrier. And he said, I'm going to build a rudder, which is like a dam. You build it and you can contain the water, a dam. That today, a hole has been made in the rudder of Gog and Magog, of Ya'juj and Ma'juj, indicating very plainly and clearly, indicating that the release of Gog and Magog has now commenced. Otherwise, Wailul lil Arab min sharrin qad iqtaraba. It's Qareeb. Qareeb has mean 2,000 years from now. Huh? So the destruction of the barrier will take place only when Allah destroys it. Because Zulkarnain said, هَذَا رَحْمَةُ مِنْ رَبِّي فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ رَبِّي جَعَلَهُ دَكَّا وَكَانَ وَعْدُ رَبِّي حَقًّا. That this barrier has been constructed in consequence of Allah's kindness. But when that time comes of which Allah has warned, جَعَلَهُ دَكَّا, Allah is going to break down the barrier. So the statement about a hole being made in the wall indicates that the destruction of the barrier commenced in the lifetime of the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam. That the barrier is not going to be brought down 2,000 years later. However, we have this strangest situation where so many, the overwhelming majority, are insisting the barrier is still standing in consequence of one solitary hadith. One solitary hadith, which is misunderstood, and when it is misunderstood, it is in conflict with the total data that comes out of the Qur'an and the hadith. One solitary hadith being misunderstood, and they insist the barrier, the wall is still there. If the barrier built of bricks, blocks of iron is still standing, I would certainly want to travel there to see it. Out of love for the Qur'an. Out of love for the Qur'an. The Qur'an has spoken about this big wall. The wall is still standing, and therefore I should have a restlessness in my heart to go and find that barrier. If I do not have a restlessness in my heart, if I make no effort whatsoever to go and search for the barrier, which is still standing, which should not be difficult to find, then there is a serious problem of integrity here. Yes. If the barrier is still standing also, we have now every square inch of the earth photographed. Something called Google Earth. You can stay at home and find a barrier. The fact is that from the time of Nabi Muhammad ﷺ to this day, not one person has seen that barrier. Not one. And yet you're insisting it's still there because of one solitary hadith. What is the hadith? The hadith is that when Nabi Isa alayhi salam returns, he's going to kill Dajjal.